Welcome to B1 Ministries, a podcast for the outcast. Spiritual conversations for everyday people. Come on. Be one with your universe. Be one with love for all humanity. Be one. Spiritual conversations for everyday people. Be one with love for all humanity.
All right, y'all. B1 Love, B1 Ministries, podcast for the outcast, spiritual conversations for everyday people. Coming at you with another CarCast. So today, one of the topics that are on my heart is relationships, right? And in specific, really marriage, because I believe that is the training camp that we all should have in our life to be able to go out and have relationships with others. Because if you can be in marriage well, you can be in relationships like friends and whatnot. And so as men, I know we struggle with the idea of servitude, right? Because we look at that as a place for our bride, but really when you look at it, especially if you're a Christian person, very clearly, Jesus said that we are the bride of Christ, right? So in essence, that means there had to be a marriage at some point, right? And so at some point you had to say, I do. And I do in the Christian community is making the profession that Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and he died and rose on the third day and all of that kind of stuff, right? That whole profession and doing that publicly. Well, that's no different than walking down the aisle and saying the same thing with your bride, and your bride saying that to you, right? She's agreeing to be with you through sickness and through health and all of that kind of stuff. And so the reason I wanted to kind of talk about this and the marriage piece is because, with men, if we learn to be good brides in our relationship to God, to Jesus, to whatever your spiritual deity may be, I'm very non-discriminatory, but I do know that if we're a good bride in that, meaning that we have that servitude, that meaning that we are willing to do for our family anything. And when it comes to the relationship to Christ and being a bride, the family really is all of God's kids. That means everybody that you come in contact with, are we willing to be a good bride and really look for our family to be nourished and clothed and all the stuff that it talks about in Proverbs 31. So if you really, especially man, if you're really looking for what does it mean to be a good husband, well, you might want to read what it is to be a good wife first, and the rest will work itself out. Because if you can do that, especially if you're looking for a really good wife, she needs to see you being a good bride first, right? And I believe that wholeheartedly, because if a woman sees you really honoring God and walking in love and walking in the awareness of who you are as a spiritual being connected to this thing called love, she's more apt to love you well and be that bride to you, because that is you often hear, the best bosses are the bosses that work with you, not you work for them. It's a we thing, right? And so with that, I just wanted to tee up my brother, man, Pastor Hunter and his wife, Serena, because those cats have worked with tons of married couples throughout the years. I think they about 200 married couples, and they have, worked with happiness, joy, sadness, distressed marriages, and that's a tough place to step into with two people that are married trying to figure stuff out. And they have a ton of experience in relationship, and not only that, Pastor Hunter and I go back, probably about 13, 14 years now. And 8 of those have been in a high school mentoring kids. And I remember when we first thought of the idea of going into the schools with our dear brother Conrad Jacobson, we committed for 10 years and we at year 8, and some beautiful things have happened along the way. It just, I'm really amazed that, by leaning into that with an open heart. And I remember one of the first things that Connie told us and, petitioned us was to not look for any results. Just be with kids, man. Just be with kids, know their name, and let them know they're loved, and the rest will take care of itself. So we never went in with a program idea. And my hope is that you would also do that in your friendships, in your marriage. Just lean in without any expectations and just kind of know that, God is doing a thing in all of our lives and all of our hearts, but we have to be good stewards of that we have been given. So this is, basically a tee up for my brother, Pastor Hunter, that I'll be doing an interview with. And, I love that brother, man. And I love his meekness, even though he's a large man and he probably could do some real damage if he was angry, you know what I mean? But his gentle spirit, and he always, looks for the optimistic side of things, and he always tries to get people to see the other person's shoe in relationships, especially distressed relationships. And I adore him for that. He may not even realize how much I have watched him, be that mediator and be just a kind, gentle spirit. And I know that his heart is so completely abandoned to selfishness. And he's one of the guys that I literally, looked up to, or still look up to, in terms of this ministry lifestyle that we live, trying to love on people. And so with that, I just want to even share, how it is for me to lean into relationships in a way that is love-centered or Jesus-centered. And it literally, for those of you that, understand the biblical, context, is that Jesus is kind of like a veil to God that he doesn't see our sin. That's kind of the crux of that. And so with that, I feel like if I want to be like that, I have to be in a position in my heart where I literally don't see people's sin. I see who they are and who they can be. And that is who I love. I can be a little angry or irritated or frustrated with the behaviors of someone, but the who they are fundamentally, a human being with a heart just like mine, I try to tap into that person, that part of the person, because I don't know one person that really just wants to be, living a distressed life, right? No one chooses that stuff, but there's a sequence of events that go on in all of our lives that make us who we become, right? But it doesn't mean that we'll always be that way. I'm a great example of that. So, I am a, 3-time felon, 17 aliases. I mean, literally, I ran amok for years. My name was Solo. I was, like we say in the hood, I was grimy. I was grimy, man. But I always had kind of a good heart about stuff, but it was really all about me, right? And today, I literally am a 180 of that. So I know the miracle that has happened in my life. And not only have I turned a 180 in obedience and been willing to just walk in love, my natural father came back into my life after 30 some odd years. My son, I was estranged for like a good 10 years, man. And we best friends now, me and my son and my dad, man. Wow. We even did a little video together and everything about, that process of coming back together and how it was just a sequence of events. It wasn't even planned. I never even planned for that to happen. I had given up on meeting my dad years ago. It was a wrap. But God saw differently. You know what I mean? And I really believe it's because of an obedient heart. And the same thing rings true, y'all, when it comes to marriage, man. Have an obedient heart, man. I mean, because really, like, at the end of the day, who are we by ourselves? Pretty much frustrated, lonely, always looking for a little bit of pleasure or just that good feeling for a second or two. Why not have someone that you are a life partner with, that you can call your best friend and you can be transparent and share everything with, and that also rings true for just friendships, deepening friendships that will go on for a lifetime, folks that just know you and can keep you accountable and all that. I think that those are huge things, man, and so for me, may you find yourself kind of thinking about this conversation today with a set of ears and your heart in a position where we realize that everything is about the relationship. It's about the relationship to the universe, thus giving you the ability to have the relationship to love in such a way that you're not moved by the little things, or behaviors in people or the economy or politics or you name it, man. There's so many so many things we can just be so distressed about. But when you get to live a life with a husband like God and you trust and believe with all of your heart that he's got you, there's a security that comes with that, y'all. And I believe that's the security that our wives feel for us when they know we're 100. When they know we're 100. And that we would never leave them or forsake them. And that, if you hear nothing else, hear that today. That, we all got a shot at that with God, but we have to be submissive and we have to surrender. And so may you find yourself living in surrender on this day after hearing this CarCast. And so I know I'm a little quirky, y'all. I know I'm a little different, but I really feel led to do this and to participate in a communal process of figuring out how to love better. How do we love deeper? And how do we keep that joy and that peace and that surrender to where our lives are almost effortless, y'all. And so that's kind of where I'm at. You guys don't want to miss my dude, Pastor Hunter, man. He's a cool cat. And he's got some bars. He got some really cool stuff to say. So if you get a shot at that, I think I'll probably drop that one on Sunday or so. Tune into that. That's going to be a good one, y'all. And I just love sharing my friends with y'all. So anyway, B1 Love, B1 Ministries, a podcast for the outcast. This is what we do. B1, we out.
Welcome to B1 Ministries, a podcast for the outcast. Spiritual conversations for everyday people. Come on. B1 with your universe. B1 with love for all humanity. conversations for everyday people. V1 with love for all humanity.